to Otherworldly, the Changing Times, Changing World show. Tonight we have Starwolf, one of our favorite guests, who has done a lot of things. I just looked and he's got over 13 on YouTube in the last couple of years. But tonight I said, you want to do runes? Because he's been posting a daily rune. If you are interested in following him on Facebook, you can see a rune interpretation every day. But he said, how about being a soothsayer in the 21st century? And I'm going to throw something at you, Starwolf, before you get going on what you're planned on. This was something we were talking about in our family, and they were explaining to me the difference between Android and iPhones, that there are things you do with 2 fingers and things you do with 1 finger and stuff. And I wondered if that's going to mean that in the 21st century, people will be doing mudras differently. Mudras are hand gestures or magic to somebody who might not have heard that yet. And I can see that what you do on your mobile phone moving into what you do in magic, if that becomes a habit of what you expect to happen when you do a certain motion. Is that anything like what you were thinking about, Starwolf? Or
no, but that has gotten some interesting concepts going in my brain. For example, here is the magic wand of computer, basically my stylus. And I was suddenly thinking, okay, this also doubles as a pen. But what if I took the pen guts part out, chopped it off about there? I don't know if anybody can see where I'm saying to there.
Higher.
And put a crystal in it, making it both a stylus and a wand. You've got to understand, I've been using an Android tablet now, so I don't know what happens on the on Apple equipment. But I could almost see, given the old Mac / Windows feud, we could have an interesting bit of magical schism of those who do the gestures of the Android and those who do the gestures of the Apple.
That's what I was thinking.
You know.
But anyway, so now why don't now that was my introductory question. How about you
okay,
continue with what you had planned?
Okay. Being a soothsayer in the 21st century is sometimes very interesting. And I say that in both the wow, this is fun sense and the Chinese curse sense. In that I was just shuffling my rune cards so that I'll give you an example of a reading in a bit. God, I had what I was going to say, and it has completely left me. Okay, it's interesting in both the Chinese sense and the wow sense, in that we are dealing with, among other things, because I have done readings for people literally, half a planet away, using the magic of the Zoom or the Google Chat. Thank you, by the way, for teaching me how to handle Zoom for the last couple of years. That's still down there. But what's most interesting is, because I don't just do SCA or paganism, I also do Renaissance fairs and psychic fairs. If you're being a soothsayer in the 21st century, you sometimes have to learn to tap dance very rapidly. Specifically, if you are, like me, taught to get the reading done when you're in a situation where somebody has paid for a block of time, which is why I have multiple mediums available. I've got my cards, I've got my bones, Let me stick my hands in here, and of course, the easiest, most portable toy that a soothsayer can use. It's a little bit knotted, but that happens. Is, of course, a pendulum. And one of the things we usually include when we're doing pendulum readings for people is basically lessons in how to use one. So, yes, I'm constantly teaching. But there we go. So, this one, by the way, his name is George. He was made out of a necklace I got at a New Age fair somewheres. I think he's from Brazil because I recognize the resin that he's made out of as something that I've seen in a lot of the wands and incense burners and other things. So I wouldn't actually burn incense in one of them. This stuff stinks when it burns. Found that out the hard way. But I think most of the difference between being a soothsayer in the 21st century and one, say, back in, to use the Scadian term, period, is, like I said, you have to be even faster on your feet than you were back in the days of, well, you give them the wrong reading and they're going to cut your head off. Because at least then you're done. These days, what they usually do is start whining at you on the internet. having worked one fair, not too far away, but let's say over the line in Tarrytown, and discovered that I had entered an entirely different culture for readers than I was used to. In other words, a culture of people who watch the timer to the nanosecond, and if they get one second less than they are allowed, complain. That was interesting, and I'm never working there again. But, and understand, I use several systems. None of what I use is technically period, to put it in a Scadian sense. I mean, I've got rune cards here, which are a beautiful set, and I'm going to look for a replacement because having used them for almost a year, I'm wearing them out. Yeah, that's one of the things that happens with things like cards. If you use them constantly, you are going to wear them out. And these were not that expensive. I got them at Five Below in basically the week after Halloween when they were clearing out all of their stuff. And it just seemed like something interesting. We were going away, and I wanted something I could just shove into my flight bag in case I wanted to do a quick reading, because everything that I normally carry was stuffed in the check-through baggage, because that's the other thing. Explaining your stuff to TSA can be difficult, especially if they don't know what you're talking about. For example, you've seen me turn out my pockets for the everyday carry, and it has only increased to the point where I seriously have to consider cutting down on what I carry. But, explain why you have a pair of singing bowls tucked in the cargo pocket of your pants. This thing seems to be talking about the closed caption. So that's an interesting one. Or, well, going through the security at Disney World and having to explain to the security guards what the stuff in my backpack was. After a day, I basically stopped carrying everything in my pockets and shoved it all in the backpack, simply because I spent less time in line. They just looked and said, okay. So I have discovered one thing. If you have an electric cart, they don't pat you down as much. They just do a quick zip, 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 look in the bag, and you're gone. That's something I learned at the Big E this year. If you buzz through on an electric cart, they are not going to give you a script search, even if your pockets are bulging. But you also have to be willing to do just sudden, off the cuff, unpaid readings for people who you meet in like the food court of a mall, simply because they find out that you're a fortune teller or a soothsayer, and oh, can you do it? So, doing a quick 3-card pull for whoever is out there. First, we have Isa. However, we have Yera following it. This is my standard daily reading. And Ewas following that. So, normally I interpret Isa as things crystallizing, the amorphous becoming solid, that which has been shifting. But as it is also ice, and ice is not a good thing, I would put this one as the ice passes. A good harvest and partners are coming into your life. Yes, that is just sufficiently vague, because unless somebody has asked a question, they're all going to get vague. That this, if published on the website, can be cover just about anybody. And part of being a soothsayer in the 21st century is, to quote a certain blue supervillain from a Disney movie, presentation. Because for the people who come to you at a Renaissance fair or at a psychic fair are not necessarily interested in how many PhDs you have or how accurate to the, to the last jot and tittle your reading system is for, say, 8th century Ruthenia. No, they're interested in a reading. They are here to be informed, but they are also here to be entertained. And that's one of the things I often teach. Soothsaying is a performing art, because we were one of the original performing groups, whether it's the shaman eating the fungus and going into a fit and coming back with an answer, or somebody dancing themselves into the other world and coming back with why this person is sick, or just divining the future of the nation. Because after all, like so many things, Romans had a professional class of diviners, which, interestingly enough, psychic ability was not considered a plus if you were a member of the College of Augurs. Yeah, that's one of the weird bits. People who talked about being psychic or having visions were usually not allowed into the college because, well, Rome being a very conservative one, you don't necessarily want somebody drooling on the Sibylline books. I would love to get a copy of those, simply because, I mean, that was the original bibliomancy. The Celts are coming. Crack the Sibylline books. See what she has to say. Bat. Oh, damn. But like I said, you need a certain amount of showmanship, which I'm not doing tonight because I got up very early this morning and I am very tired, which means my readings get really interesting.
Well, you do have the nice set dressing.
Yeah, yes, I do. It does give it a certain level of presence. So usually, as I said earlier, that is on my table, not behind me, but I needed something.
I'm also very impressed because now I'm looking at, having heard the story about when the flame suddenly jumped up as far as the ceiling. I hadn't realized how high the ceiling of your basement was.
The ceiling is about 8 feet from the ground, and the firebowl is about 3 and a bit feet from the floor, because it's on my altar, which is behind me, and right now looks like a mess because the gods are really pissed at me. I don't even want to think what the house spirits think about me right now, but we are in the middle of having the house renovated, so that's going to make everybody happy. Also discovered just how much rot there was in the front wall. Oh, crap. But, and as I'm sitting here talking to you and shuffling the cards, I usually have this little mantra that I do once, twice. Yeah, I will never get a job at one of the casinos. Thrice. You think I've already been shuffling. The next two would be 4 and 1 time more, and then plop the cards down and request the querent cut them. Previously, I have asked them, you do know how to cut cards, don't you? Because I have discovered there is an entire generation of people who have played endless hands of poker and other card games, but have never physically handled a deck of cards because they do it all there on the magic mirror. So, cut the cards and then deal things out. And Six of Cups upright. Temptation coming into your life. Choose the minor ones. The extra piece of chocolate is okay. Eating the whole box? No. One slap of the snooze alarm is acceptable. Turning the alarm off, going back to sleep and saying, I'm not going in today, not a good idea. Crossing it? Somebody's in trouble. The moon. The literal, lumber yard of the tarot deck. Because it covers everything from psychic abilities to depression to deception to the dark night of the soul, all jumbled into one. All the things that the guys in the Golden Dawn weren't comfortable with ended up in the moon. Yes, I blame the Golden Dawn for a lot of things, including a lot of really, really badly translated Hebrew that they probably couldn't get a rabbi to actually translate the stuff for them. And then I continue to go around. Next one is below you, which I explain is the foundation of their reading. Universe. Whoever this is has building on the successful completion of one cycle of their life, preparatory to beginning the next one. Behind you, Page of Swords. Beginning of a new cycle of learning or gathering information. And I also explained to the people that these two cards are the only two in the reading that cannot be changed because they're your past. The rest, however, is engraved, and I'm using all the usual hand flourishes to show you what I'm talking about, is engraved not so much in stone as in cream cheese, which means if you don't like what you see, you can work to change it. You have power over your destiny. Negative cards are warnings of things that you can now avoid because you know they're coming, rather than portents of doom. And having given you the basic speech on free will, we continue. And then I go round for, let's see, above, 10 of Wands. A hunger to grow, to move, to stretch out. Before you, King of Wands, reversed, though I tend to read court cards in relationship to the person I'm reading for. So the end of a cycle of motion and activity, because that's Wands right there, or the influence of a mature man with blonde hair and blue eyes. And of course, anytime the King of Coins comes up in somebody's reading, at least in the future, I get to use the bad line from every bad tarot reading and every crappy horror movie. I see a tall, dark stranger in your future, including the bad accent. Simply because being from Connecticut, I don't have one. But that's I'm not going to go through the entire tarot reading, but that's a basic one. And the idea is I have to set the people at ease. Part of the reason I have a hedgehog sitting on my cards, because hedgehogs are cute. Hi. His name is Edgy Wedgie, which was explained to me by Raymond Buckland. That is the English traveler, gypsy, call it what you will, name for hedgehogs. It's also the symbol of prosperity, because if you have a lot of hedgehogs, you eat well.
Huh.
Apparently tasty. Yes, Uncle Raymond was interesting.
Now they're going to think he's your literal uncle.
No. I refer to most of the people who have taught me as either uncle or auntie or occasionally grandma. That would be Starhawk, simply because she was the teacher of one of my first official teachers. Herman is just Herman.
Herman Slater.
Yep. Owner of first the Warlock Shop and then the Magical Child, one of the best occult stores in the world. Unfortunately, no longer there. And indeed, last time I was there, it was a Colombian themed tapas restaurant. It's amazing how gentrified 19th Street is these days. But yes, and like I said, this carries all sorts of things. I mean, you saw Edgy Wedgie. You can't see down over there. There is a Ganesh and a Lucky Money Cat. And over there, this is Whiskers, specifically Whiskers Mark II. She's Mark II because the original Whiskers disappeared. We were doing readings at a haunted house, and there was this young lady who was basically, she looked like Wednesday Addams. She was dressed like her. The Wednesday Addams from the TV series, not either the movies or the new video series. And she was fascinated with Whiskers, and I thought nothing of it. At some point, she must have managed to get her paws on him, because when next I checked, he was gone, or she was gone. So that is Whiskers Mark II. Rest is, let's see, bag for tarot cards, bag containing rune cards. My bones. You've heard the expression making your bones? I did. Something I explained to just about everybody. Let's see what the runes have to say coming from this set. We start with Hairthrow, Good Fellowship, Isa, Crystallization of Form, and Suelo, or Siegel, or Sieg, depending on which version you use. The Ever Victorious Sun. So this would be aided by good companions. The amorphous becomes solid. That which was unreadable becomes clear, and you achieve victory. And yes, I made them myself, and these are indeed chicken bones. Spent over a year eating wings, discovering just what restaurants and grocery stores did the best wings, because I found any place that does a pressure fryer, if you're going to make a set of bones, the tips of the wings break down when they pressure fry them. And there is also a great deal of variation in the size of chickens, which I'm sure you would understand, Chipicon, because you raised them. But you can literally clean them off, and three identically sized drumettes, when you were eating the meat, suddenly the bones are entirely different size. And now I've got a rush tune running through my head, which often happens when I'm working on making anything Soothsayish. Yes, the rush tune roll the bones. Excuse me while I reach over and activate the clock so I can see how much time I've got. Okay, I've still got 28 minutes to ramble. Does anybody have any questions about being a soothsayer in the 21st century?
Well, I would like to ask you, your interpretations are slightly different than mine, which I find fascinating and illuminating.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any idea? Somebody was asking me, came to me very unhappy because she had received a chariot and in tarot, and was really unhappy because she felt that indicated she was spent probably 20 minutes trying to cheer up, because she thought it was a horrible card, a dangerous card. That no, not the chariot, not the chariot. Excuse me, the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune, I was like, excuse me, that's not scary. That's not. But when
No.
somebody is convinced it is, it's very hard to get her.
It's the universe saying, you, for the next whatever period you're dealing with, you have an edge. You might not have assured victory. There are cards for that. But it means in a world where the rest of us have a 50-50 chance, you might have a 55-60% chance. And those of us who rolled enough 20-sided or 100-sided dice in our life knows there's a massive difference between trying to get between 1 and 50 and 1 and 60. Yeah, reassuring people. I've occasionally had to deal with people who got really bad readings at other booths and are trying to get an interpretation. So yes, there is a certain amount of spin doctorage, and part of how I read runes, for example, has to do as much with what I've been literally told, because looking up, wondering if somebody is watching tonight. He probably is. And
he is.
things work for people who are perhaps not heathen, not Scadian, not pagan, and probably scared out of their wits at the idea that I am looking into the future for them. For example, once again, Isa, which, is pretty much a disastrous rune, except when you look at it as, like I said, the crystallization of form. Water becoming crystalline and clear ice. It's a hell of a lot easier to cross a frozen river than it is to cross one that's running if you don't have a boat. And as somebody some of whose ancestors spent their time pulling sledges up the frozen rivers of Ukraine and Russia, it's a heck of a lot easier to do that.
Yeah, I mostly leaned into that is it knowing something that's coming ahead, it gives you more power, and the whole idea of divination is to give you an edge. I read for empowerment. I've seen other people who say, no, you must always tell them what they want to hear so they will go away feeling good.
No.
That's
No.
That's not the way I do it.
The real trick is to empower them without scaring them.
Yeah.
And having worked things as diverse as middle school Ren fairs, where you're dealing with tween and early teenage girls and sometimes boys, not terrifying them is perhaps the hardest thing, especially when you get one notable reading I did at a now sunk without a trace Renaissance fair called what was it, Prince Williams. I think that was the one up in Hubbardston, Mass. We got a bunch of kids from a summer camp, and I laid out the cards, and she got the High Priestess and the Hanged Man, and she got the Lightning Struck Tower and Death, and because I have an odd deck, she also got the Vision card. They were laid out. I don't remember the exact order, but when I was done, it was very much, she is got things coming into her life. And I look up and I look into these almost grass green eyes in this milk pale skin with the black hair. And you see the little "Hi, I'm" sticker on her camp t-shirt that says, "Hi, I'm Morgan," which I get a feeling was accented wrong. It perhaps should have been Morrigan. But what do you expect? It's Hubbardston. Strange things and strange people live there.
Mm-hmm.
That includes my
Not
sister.
a lot of high schools want you doing soothsaying at their fairs.
Really? Actually, no. For many years, we used to do what were the post graduation. We're not going to let them run wild, get drunk, and injure themselves celebrations that various high schools, at least around here, have, where the graduation is over and then anybody who basically isn't being taken off for a graduation dinner by their parents or, getting on the plane to go somewheres gets herded together. And at least the ones we used to work at in Middletown, they'd start with a river cruise with a band on, up and down the Connecticut River from Middletown down to Essex, turn around and come back up. And while that was happening, they would set up the high school gym. There would be food. There would be a DJ. A friend of ours would do henna. They would have us off in a room doing readings, little 5-minute pickup readings. We'd get paid by the hour, not by the reading. So, we would usually start about midnight and we'd go till 4:30 in the morning. That's definitely a gig where you either call in sick the next day or you make sure you have the next day off and take a nap when you get home before you go out. But yeah, a lot of high schools used to do that. COVID kind of put the brakes on that, but it's starting to happen again. I need to get in touch, for example, with the high school that is literally half a block from my house and see if they're doing that this year. Sometimes high school Halloween parties are, I've often said this is my busy season. From Labor Day to Yule, this is the season of the witch. Then we get to fall over.
No, then you get to go to changing times. Then you can fall over.
No, changing times is before Yule. I'm still effectively working. Like I said, from Labor Day to Yule is the season of the witch, which is why if you ever follow me, you realize one of the things I do on Labor Day weekend is put the old Donovan tune on simply because. But it is one of the things you do. So yeah, high schools do. Usually what happens, the more skeptical teachers, they don't show up. Usually what we get the people who are involved in running the show, which means, the art teachers,
Mhm.
the literature, whoever's teaching English lit, they plus various parents who are there chaperoning and making sure that they don't too heavily spike the punch. Understand, I came from there were 7 people in my graduating class. It was a small private school on Long Island. So we did not have a big graduation thing. Um, about a week before graduation, the faculty took us all out to dinner. And we did all the things and stuff. So that was our and
Okay.
then my girlfriend.
I have just put up the Foresight links.
Yeah.
Now
Thank you.
reassure me that they are still good.
Give me a second. I have to hit the
Chat.
I have to go
Mm-hmm.
chat and see. Yes, those will work though. Foresight, yourpsychic.com is somewhat moribund.
Oh, okay. So
I do
Connecticut
most of my work
Psychic.
through the Foresight on Facebook.
Oh, Foresight on
The
Facebook.
Foresight on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I post my daily reading both on my own Facebook page, plus on the Foresight Facebook page, and a few other social media groups that I am part of. Not the artist formerly called Twitter,
What?
but that's one of the spots I do it. And like I said, I try to make sure that I do it every day. If there will be some weekends where I won't because I'm up too early and home too late. Yes, that one will work.
There we go.
I also post whatever uplifting metaphysical bits that I see coming over my feed from other people that have set it up so that I can actually share it, as opposed to, oops, you have to be a member of this group. So there's
Yeah.
usually 1 or 2 catchphrases for the day, but that's the basic minimal advertising that I do. We also have on the business cards, we have have our email address because we have an actual business email. That's something I've got to do. I've got to change the email on the Foresight page. Though you can usually get to me through my personal email, witchwolf, WYTCH 2000 @gmail.com, because I'm always on there, and I check the business email about once a day. But that is the trick, is basically not scaring people, and 2, dealing with the fundies.
Mm.
That should prove interesting. Last weekend, my friends and I went up to Salem. We assumed going the day before October started would. No, apparently that starts about Labor Day too. It was interesting, and it is something off the bucket list that we're never, ever, ever going to do again.
Mm-hmm.
The only good thing was the pay kiosk at the T garage was down, so it was effectively free parking.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. That was one of the better ones.
Yeah.
But it's, well, they did say if you want to pay, you can use this pay app, which I don't have on my phone. So getting back to Soothsaying, we wander around. Couldn't get into half the stores. They have fines.
Mm.
Best time to go late May, early June. Nice weather. All you have to do is worry about way too many bridal parties.
Yeah.
And because lately, every weekend has been pouring rain. This one too. This one coming up as well. But the see what else about being avoiding the fundies and knowing the laws.
Mm.
I do not claim to know the laws about soothsaying in every state, but I do know all of them for New England and New York State. Let's start with New York. New York State, it is illegal to claim to be psychic. It is, however, not illegal to do readings for entertainment. So if you have for entertainment purposes written on the bottom of your sign, it doesn't matter if they're almost illegible, you're done. Connecticut, for many years, for example, you literally had to be a minister in order to be a psychic, because then the money came in under donations, which
Okay.
is why I originally got my Universal Life Church ordination, because minister's a minister as far as the state of Connecticut is concerned. I'm a minister in good standing. I have a certificate on file with the state attorney general.
Huh.
So, yeah, these days it doesn't matter. As long as you're not running a con, they don't really care. Massachusetts is perhaps okay. Maine, once again, don't care. New Hampshire, Vermont. Vermont is only interested in if you are selling something that is taxable, and services aren't taxable, and we are a service. Same with New Hampshire. Services are not taxable. And Rhode Island, they still haven't figured out what to say, and so it's, yeah, we'll let you know if we ever change. Then you get to Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, you can give readings for pay, but you have to have a license. And to get that license, you need to be resident in the town in which you are giving them for 1 year. And that license is only good for that town.
Wow.
Yeah. There are two ways around this. One, if you know anybody who is in the state legislature, they can slip a rider in on a bill that will exempt you from that. Unfortunately, my family's connections with the Massachusetts legislature died with Joe Kennedy. Or you can get a performer's license, and once again, it becomes entertainment for pay. You're effectively busking with cards. And an entertainer's license is real easy to do. So that can sometimes take some of the magic, mystery, and majesty off of doing readings, because suddenly you are an entertainer. But there is nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, we have been entertaining people at least since somebody threw a couple of rib bones on the ground and looked at the pattern and said, oh, this means that. Okay, you've been eating the funny mushrooms again, haven't you? And yes, I am doing my best to make you people laugh, because that's part of what I do. And
Less possible.
exactly. Let's see how much time we got. And it's not doing it. Okay, we've still got 10 minutes. More questions, please. Question.
Well, you did say what to do for the younger people. Do you have any? What do you feel that the older people are looking for that you need to do to help them?
Well, then you get into the big three, or sometimes the big four. For adults, the big three are money, health, and love, not necessarily in that order. And for some of the older people, grandchildren are also included in that, hence the big three or the big four. Health being one of the big ones, because, forewarned is forearmed. And I often explain that I am the traffic reporter on the road of your life. My job is to tell you how to get around the jams, because that is That's always been the role of the soothsayer, the fortune teller, the diviner. Call us what you will. Our job, we don't hold the helm of the ship of state. We stand next to the helmsman and say, go that way. Or we're up at the bow slinging the lead and telling them, hard to starboard, it's getting shallow.
Yeah.
But, also Pennsylvania doesn't care unless you're selling tangible goods about giving readings either, and neither does New Jersey. So that covers pretty much our entire range.
Yeah.
But a lot depends on what you can do for somebody, on what your modality is. For example, Kathy is a palmist. Palm reading is entirely about the person sitting there. Other people only come in peripheral. So if, to borrow one, the little old lady sits down, puts her hands down in front of Kathy, says, tell me about my grandchildren. She can't. Except she can kind of look at the marriage lines on the side of the hand and how they go up and if they branch, and she might be able to tell a little bit, but the rest of it, she can use oracle cards. She can use I Ching. She can, what's the other two she normally does? She can, of course, pendulum. Pendulum's real good for grandchildren as long as you can formulate the questions as a yes or a no.
Yeah.
So,
how about health?
Yes,
I was thinking that you might get into trouble with laws if you talk about health, because it might fall under, it doesn't prescription, but it might call diagnosis. Edgar Cayce would have gotten in trouble.
Yeah. The good news is I tend to work on the idea of, well, for example, if Two of Swords reverse turns up, which is illness, I say there is a greater than normal possibility of illness in your life. You might want to check with your doctor.
Yes.
I don't diagnose, except if when the fair is closed and somebody mashes some portion of their anatomy, resetting a tent stake, and I whip out the arnica pills and the hypernicum pills, homeopathic, and shove some into them and then tell them, okay, do that now, go to the emergency room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have only had one bad encounter like that when someone really went off the deep end that I was using homeopathics because that was all sorts of woo-woo and it doesn't work and nothing. It's like, okay. Especially as I usually gave his wife a reading every time. It's like, okie dokie. Sometimes you can really hear the fear in their voices when they're trying desperately to poo-poo everything.
Yeah.
Because that's the main trick. It's overcoming the fear.
Have you seen the thing where, I don't know, it might not work with you, but I almost never had a guy come to me unless his wife had drug him there. And one guy came by himself, and I said, gee, you're the first guy that's come that didn't have their wife. And he said, she's sitting across the street waiting. But are men could be willing to come and talk to you because you're a guy?
Yeah, I tend to get, if there is a guy who is looking for a reading, I will be the one who gets him. And then a lot of times what will happen is he'll drag his wife over to either get a tarot reading, because guys usually get rune readings because runes are Viking and runes are macho.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it.
Bones.
Yeah, runes are macho. They're bones, and he's got a long gray beard, and he looks like, he stepped out of a bad production of Wagner. I do not wear a winged helmet. I've never been able to afford one. But yeah, I tend to get the guys. I also tend to get the trans community. Whether doesn't matter which direction they're going, whether it's male to female or female to male. If there is somebody who is trans, they're looking for a reading, they tend to come to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, It's one of the weird ones, but
Hmm.
I think it may be because I am something of an in-between being myself.
Mm. And they sense that about you.
Yeah, they sense they can be comfortable with me. They can be safe with me. So that's part of it. Is like I said, it's otherwise that I don't like it when people treat getting a reading like going to the dentist.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I can understand how terrifying that can be
Do you
because,
ever do group reading? Like I've done psychic parties,
yep.
and I do palms. And one of the things I've seen is I'll be saying, you're like this, and this is your, and you tend to prefer to this rather than this, and you're more whatever. And they're saying, oh no, I don't know, see it. And behind them, we've
And the
got a half
person
a
standing
dozen
next
friends
to them
going,
is doing the,
yeah,
yep. Oh yeah. Kathy gets that more than I do because
palmistry.
yeah, but I've gotten that and I've done readings for couples and it's real simple. I just do the standard shuffle and then I have them do hand over hand. It doesn't matter whose hand is on top. So the two of them cut. I've also done at least one reading for for a child that had yet to be born.
Well, it would work. Why wouldn't that work?
Yeah. As long
Well,
as they
it's just,
received at least.
people rarely ask for that. You know, this was a rarity. What
Yeah.
was interesting is it was down. Actually, no, I've done two of those. One up here and another one down at the Lakewood Renaissance Fair. But what was interesting is the woman was in a babushka, and I get a funny feeling she may have been Orthodox,
Hmm.
which is one of the stranger ones. You know, because yes, I have a certain resemblance to a rabbi, but at the same time, I have no.
Have you ever had any specific dealings with legal? And who are the most skeptical? How have you dealt with? Do you have people who come in to challenge you and say, prove that you can't tell them anything about themselves?
No.
Really?
Once again, we've gotten a few people who are, yeah, I'm here because my girlfriend made me, and after about the third or fourth card or the fourth or fifth line on their hands, they're going, huh? Yeah. Um, the worst I've had was somebody who he wasn't, well, he claimed to be a Satanist and he knew everything.
Oh,
And
then why did he need you?
he was also chewing tobacco at the time. And I just warned him that if he dribbles on my cards, he will truly discover hell. Because I used the line from the original Conan movie, I'll summon up a demon more powerful than any in hell if I make you angry. Oh,
So who's your favorite? Who's the favorite that you'd like to read for?
oof. Favorites? People.
People, humans. You don't do
Humans
readings for the
in general.
Jotun and
Well, I unlike certain people, I can't take the stuff with me. I've got a few tools that have carried long enough that they kind of show up, but I've only done one or two for beings that are definitely not members of the human race. So you do get those at Ren fairs sometimes. Yeah, well, why not? They like a party too.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about the what do you think? Let's look forward. What do you think is coming up later in the 21st century? Do you think that people are going to be more open to Divination, psychic phenomena?
I would like to think so. I would like to think that people are going to get more comfortable with it as more people manifest psychic abilities and hopefully don't get drugged into insensibility in an institution.
Right.
To quote Michael Harner, we tend to drug our prophets and our shamans into a coma. But I'm also hoping that as we go deeper into explorations of things like quantum computing, where the act of observation can alter the outcome, we may be able to create a synchronistic bit where, you are using your quantum interface into the basic fabric of reality. Because one of the things I often say is, I'm just reading the variations in the quantum flow,
Mm-hmm.
because in the end, quantum mechanics, the sleazy little bar where physics and magic meet, and physics looks embarrassed and magic is grinning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it is. I mean, if you think about it, my pendulum uses a quartz crystal. There is a tiny quartz or multiple tiny quartz crystals in this magic mirror that I am talking to you people through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Have you ever Reiki'd your computer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, most people I know who
Admittedly,
do Reiki have done at one point or another.
I've Reiki'd computers, I've Reiki'd cars.
Oh yeah, that works.
We kept one friend's car going for a year until he could replace it by basically weekly Reiki treatments on it. Um,
Nothing's more convincing than watching something happen.
Yeah.
Nothing. What actually convinced me most that homeopathics work is fixing a friend's dog.
Mm.
She had pinched a nerve and couldn't walk, and they would have to take her out to do her business and put a couple of arnica pellets, a couple of hypernicum pellets, and one or two silica in her water bowl. She drank it down. And about 5 minutes later, she got up and started scratching at the door to be let out.
Mm.
And I'm sorry, dogs don't do the placebo effect.
Right.
you know,
Yep, we did the same thing with the we fed the box flower remedy to our livestock, and it helped.
Yep.
Placebo is powerful, but it's just magic like everything else.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I said, having watched this dog that was kind of whimpering in pain suddenly get up and, excuse me, I've got things to do, and start scratching. Fixed
Good
lady
feeling.
up, and she was up and running for another 5 or 6 years.
That's great. So that's why you are cross disciplinary.
Yeah.
You mix everything.
That's why I also say mass means nothing in metaphysics. When it comes to, oh, I've got this huge crystal, I've got this little bitty pinhead-sized Herkimer diamond that's putting out as much energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The crystalline structure is repeated on microscopic, submicroscopic, quantum levels, and it's the same power all the way through.
And I've just realized, having looked at one of the facets on the crystal that is in part of George, and I've never had quite a bright enough light to do this.
Yeah.
It is what is called a record keeper crystal.
Oh, it
in
is.
addition, it's got a couple of the really tiny incised triangles
Cool.
on this base, and it is, of course, because of the shape, it's also a receiver crystal, which
Mm-hmm.
makes perfect sense for a pendulum.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I've learned something today.
Mm.
Today is not lost.
Well, we are kind of coming to the end.
Okay.
Do want to make my usual pitch for, if you haven't thought about it yet, please go to the Changing Times, Changing Worlds website, and we would love to see you there. We also have a virtual thing so that people who might want to go to the do that one is a good
Virtual track of programming, yes.
I'm
I've
spacing.
been-
I'm trying to remember. It's in Kerhonkson, New York.
Yeah.
It's the November 3rd through 5th.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you can find out how to sign up on the website, which I will put up here. It's just only CTCW net. So that's not
And-
hard.
And
So-
I am really hoping that the meal plan is good.
Mm.
Well, they say they can feed anybody no matter what their dietary requirements are. So that's cool.
I also
And
have to find out if they have an exercise room.
yes, they do.
Oh, good.
I
It's an
don't know.
old Jewish resort. They have everything.
But-
Well,
Anyway, so I've put in
something
my
to
play for that. Do check us out and come back to
Yep.
other and tell your friends, because you don't want your friends to
Mhm.
say, "Why didn't you tell me that was on?" So,
I've
so
been
thank
handing
you
out
very
cards
much.
and
Did you have any final thoughts before I stop the recording?
Not really.
Okay,
It's
well,
been a
really-
weird day, and
I really enjoyed
I am
this. Thank
somewhat-
you so much.
I enjoyed being able